When we speak of narcissism, many imagine arrogance, self-obsession, or vanity. Yet to reduce it to mere self-love is to misunderstand its true nature. A narcissist is not simply a person who admires themselves. They are a person who survives by manipulating others into a position of submission. Their satisfaction does not come from mutual respect, but from domination. Therefore, when you attempt to fight narcissism with niceness, you enter the battle with the wrong weapon. You are bringing water to someone who thrives on fire, and instead of extinguishing the flames, you are fueling them. Niceness in this context becomes an invitation to exploitation. What a narcissist understands most is power. Every interaction with them is calibrated not through the lens of love, but through the cold arithmetic of control. They ask themselves not, does this person care for me, but can I bend this person to my will? Can I make them orbit around my desires? And the tragedy is that many who deal with narcissists fail to see this invisible game unfolding before their eyes. They keep giving more kindness, more patience, more empathy, believing that the narcissist will eventually be moved to reciprocate. But the narcissist does not reciprocate, they calculate. They interpret your niceness not as generosity, but as weakness, as proof that you are available to be controlled. You must understand that to a narcissist, relationships are not partnerships, they are arenas. And in this arena, there are only two roles, the master and the servant. If you do not claim mastery of your own life, they will gladly take it from you and assign you the role of servant. They will cloak it with charm, with persuasion, sometimes even with counterfeit affection, but beneath it all lies one thing, the desire to dominate. To recognize this is the first act of liberation, because once you name the game, you are no longer deceived by its illusions. Think of it this way, when a narcissist speaks, they are not merely communicating, they are negotiating for control. When they charm you, it is not out of admiration, it is out of strategy. When they belittle you, it is not always out of anger, it is out of design. Every gesture, every silence, every exaggerated story they tell is often part of a script to maintain their position at the center and reduce you to a supporting role in their drama. Once you see this, you can no longer afford the luxury of naive niceness. You must shift from seeing them as misunderstood souls to recognizing them as tacticians of control. This does not mean that every narcissist is conscious of their manipulation in a sinister, premeditated way. Some have lived in this pattern so long that it is second nature. Yet, whether deliberate or instinctive, the effect is the same. They drain the people around them and consolidate their power. To deal with such a person, you must sharpen your awareness. You must refuse to be blinded by the surface and instead perceive the structure of the game beneath it. And why is this recognition so important? Because power games are not fought with pleasantries, they are fought with clarity. If you keep believing that the narcissist will change if you are simply nice enough, then you are playing by their rules and you are guaranteed to lose. They will always want more kindness, more patience, more sacrifice, because their appetite for control is insatiable. It is like pouring water into a bottomless pit. You will only exhaust yourself while they continue to demand more. Once you grasp this reality, you start to see your niceness not as a virtue in this context, but as a liability. You begin to understand that the energy you are giving away so freely is not transforming the situation. It is entrenching the narcissist's power. Recognition is therefore the beginning of transformation. For as long as you misdiagnose the problem, you will misapply the solution. You do not heal narcissistic manipulation by appeasing it, You end it by recognizing it. History itself teaches us this lesson. Entire nations have fallen into the trap of appeasing power, hungry leaders, thinking that concessions would soften their greed. Yet the more concessions were made, the bolder the tyrant became. Niceness did not produce peace. It produced enslavement. And so it is in personal relationships. When you keep yielding to a narcissist, they do not feel gratitude, they feel reinforced. They interpret every concession as confirmation of their superiority. And unless you recognize the game, you will find yourself waking up one day drained of dignity, wondering how you lost so much of yourself in the name of being nice. So I say to you, the first step is awareness. The first act of courage is to strip away the illusion and see the narcissist for what they are, a player in a game of power. This recognition is not an act of bitterness. It is an act of wisdom. It is the refusal to be deceived by appearances. It is the declaration that you will no longer confuse manipulation with love, exploitation with partnership, or control with care. And once you have seen the game, you cannot unsee it. You begin to reclaim your strength. You realize that you were never weak. You were simply uninformed. You realize that your kindness is not the problem, but its misapplication is. In the right hands, kindness builds. In the wrong hands, it binds. Therefore, your task is not to stop being kind altogether, but to stop directing your kindness toward those who weaponize it against you. If the first step in dealing with a narcissist is recognizing that you are not in a relationship of mutual respect, but in a battle for control, then the second step is learning how to respond. Too often, people make the mistake of believing that the antidote to narcissism is to keep giving more patience, more concessions, and more explanations. But what you must realize is that every concession is interpreted by the narcissist as a signal of surrender. You may think you are maintaining peace, but in truth, you are feeding the very beast you hope to tame. The real answer, therefore, is not to out-nice the narcissist, but to out-clarify them, to establish boundaries and consequences that are unshakable. Boundaries are the language of self-respect. They are the invisible lines that say, this is who I am, this is what I allow, and this is where I stop you. A narcissist despises boundaries because boundaries restrict their ability to control. They will test them, mock them, push against them, and accuse you of being selfish for having them. But that is precisely the proof that boundaries are effective. The very resistance you face when you enforce a limit is evidence that you are disrupting their game. For the narcissist, boundaries are kryptonite because they signal that you refuse to be a willing participant in their theater of control. But understand this, boundaries without consequences are empty. To tell a narcissist, do not speak to me in that tone, while still tolerating their disrespect, is to teach them that your words are hollow. They do not listen to lectures, they watch patterns. If you draw a line but never defend it, they will learn that the line is imaginary. This is why consequences are essential. When you withdraw your energy, when you remove access, when you make it clear through action that violation comes at a cost, then the narcissist is forced to reckon with a reality they cannot manipulate. Now, some may say, but I fear that setting boundaries will make the narcissist angry. And I say, of course it will. Do not expect applause for reclaiming your dignity. The narcissist thrives in the absence of resistance, and when resistance appears, they will rage, sulk, or attempt to guilt you back into submission. But do not mistake this reaction for failure. It is proof of progress. If they are agitated, it means you have disturbed the comfort of their control. Do not be intimidated by their displeasure, be encouraged by it, for in that moment you are no longer the compliant servant. You are a free individual declaring the terms of your own life. And here lies the deeper psychological truth. When you set boundaries, you are not merely protecting yourself from another person's behavior. You are redefining your own identity. Every boundary is a declaration that your peace matters, that your time matters, that your dignity matters. Without boundaries, you allow the narcissist to script your life. With boundaries, you reclaim authorship of your own story. In essence, boundaries are less about controlling the narcissist and more about refusing to be controlled by them. Philosophically, it is the difference between living reactively and living intentionally. A life without boundaries is a life where you exist as an object in someone else's narrative. A life with boundaries is a life where you are the subject, the one who chooses, the one who decides. And this is where true freedom lies, not in persuading the narcissist to change, but in refusing to compromise your own selfhood for their approval. It is also important to understand that boundaries are not cruelty, they are not vengeance, they are not punishment. They are clarity, they are the simple truth expressed in action. This is acceptable and this is not. When a narcissist tells you that you are harsh for having boundaries, what they mean is that they are no longer free to exploit you. Do not confuse their discomfort with injustice. You are not being cruel. You are being clear, and let us be honest, clarity is something most people fear. Many tolerate exploitation because they dread confrontation. Many surrender their dignity because they confuse saying no with being unkind. Yet what they fail to realize is that saying yes to everything is not kindness, it is self-erasure. The narcissist thrives on that erasure, for it gives them room to inscribe their will upon you. But the moment you begin to draw lines, you reclaim your canvas. You reclaim the right to define your own life. Think about it historically. Every oppressive system in the world, whether colonialism, dictatorship, or slavery, has relied on the absence of boundaries from the oppressed. The moment the oppressed drew lines, whether through resistance, protest, or withdrawal, the tyrant was forced to reckon with limits. And while the tyrant did not like those limits, history proves that they were necessary for liberation. In the same way, in your personal life, boundaries are the architecture of freedom. They are the walls that protect the city of your soul from invasion. Without them, you are vulnerable to occupation. With them, you are sovereign, and I must emphasize, boundaries are not a one-time act, but a lifestyle. A narcissist will test them again and again, probing for weakness, searching for loopholes. You must be consistent. Do not build the wall one day and tear it down the next, for if you waver, the narcissist will exploit the inconsistency and reclaim control. Remember, boundaries are not what you declare in a moment of courage, but what you enforce in the daily practice of your life. If recognition is the beginning of wisdom and boundaries are the practice of strength, then the final movement in this journey is detachment. For it is one thing to see the game of power, another to set the rules for your participation, but quite another to withdraw the energy that fuels the narcissist altogether. Make no mistake, a narcissist does not survive on food, drink, or even affection alone. They survive on attention. They need your reactions, your explanations, your outrage, your defense, even your silence, if that silence is filled with fear. In the economy of their world, every emotional response you give is currency, and as long as you keep paying, they keep growing rich. So what does it mean to detach? Detachment is not indifference. It is not coldness. It is not hatred. Detachment is the refusal to allow someone else's behavior to dictate the climate of your soul. It is to say, You may do what you wish, but I will no longer dance to the rhythm of your manipulation. Detachment is power reclaimed, because it robs the narcissist of the very fuel they need to sustain their dominance. Consider the way a fire works. Fire consumes oxygen. Without it, the flame weakens and dies. Similarly, the narcissist consumes your emotional oxygen. The more you argue, explain, plead, or protest, the stronger their fire burns. But when you withdraw your emotional oxygen, when you stop feeding them your energy, the flame falters. They may rage, they may thrash, they may attempt 100 tricks to reignite the blaze, but sooner or later, they are forced to confront a reality without your fuel. This is where many people struggle because detachment feels unnatural. You want to explain yourself, you want to prove your point, you want to correct the lies, you want to win the argument. But you must remember, a narcissist is not listening to understand. They are listening to dominate. To engage them on their terms is to walk into a rigged casino. You may play with all your skill, but the house always wins. The only way to beat the game is to stop playing, and here lies the paradox. Your silence, when born of fear, feeds them, but your silence, when born of clarity, starves them. The difference is not in the absence of words, but in the presence of self-control. When you detach, you stop giving the narcissist the privilege of shaping your emotions. You stop performing for their script. You reclaim your stage, but detachment is not only an act of resistance, it is also an act of healing. For when you detach, you free your energy to be invested elsewhere. You begin to pour into yourself, into your dreams, into your purpose, into relationships that nourish rather than drain. Every ounce of energy you withhold from the narcissist becomes an ounce of strength you redirect toward your growth. And slowly you begin to rediscover that life is bigger than the manipulation of one individual. You begin to see horizons beyond the prison of their control. Psychologically, detachment is the highest form of mastery. Anyone can be provoked. Few can remain unmoved. The narcissist counts on your predictability, your reflex to respond, your need to justify yourself. When you break that pattern, you break their grip, and when you do so consistently, they are left disarmed, forced to face the emptiness of their control. Remember this, they are powerful only as long as you are reactive. The moment you are still, they are exposed. Philosophically, detachment is the practice of inner sovereignty. It is the recognition that your peace of mind is not a negotiable commodity to be traded for someone else's approval. It is the conviction that your joy is too sacred to be sacrificed at the altar of another's ego. To detach is to affirm that your life belongs to you, not to the shifting demands of someone addicted to power. Some will say, but is this not selfish? And I answer, is it selfish to breathe your own air? Is it selfish to guard your own health? Is it selfish to protect your own soul? No, it is not selfish. It is survival. It is wisdom. It is the refusal to martyr yourself for the satisfaction of another's appetite for control. True selfishness lies not in guarding your peace, but in those who demand that you destroy yourself for their comfort. And let us be clear, detachment does not always mean physical departure, though sometimes it must. There are moments when walking away entirely is the greatest act of liberation. But even if circumstances do not allow immediate escape, whether in family, work, or community, detachment begins in the mind. You can remain in proximity while refusing to be consumed. You can listen without absorbing, speak without explaining, and act without seeking approval. This is the art of living free even in the presence of control. But detachment is not only about denying them your energy, it is about reclaiming your destiny. For as long as you orbit around the narcissist, your life becomes a reflection of their moods. When they are pleased, you breathe. When they are displeased, you suffocate. But when you detach, you step out of orbit. You realize you are not a satellite revolving around their sun. You are a star in your own right, with your own light, your own path, your own gravitational pull.